Hello out there in internet land. So today's video, if I can get away from the dogs and the chickens, is talking about the transformer. So there's our transformer, if you can see it. And that little gauge on the side is actually a gauge where you can switch how much power, so they can up the power if they have to, if you're getting lower power on your transformer. But that is our transformer. It's out here on the pole. There goes another tripe. The only other thing I really needed to show you out here, if the rooster would calm down for a second, would be the hookup. So we were lucky enough, we hooked up all three of the houses here. Nani's house is hooked up. There's the wire going over to Nani's house. Kuya Arthur's house back here is hooked up. And of course our house way over there with the solar panels on it. And all three houses got hooked up to the transformer, so we all have clean power. And I think that's about all I need to show you out here on the pole. We can do the rest just talking inside. But that is our transformer. Okay. So one other thing I need to show you before I go back inside for this transformer video is the power coming into my inverter. So this is the grid coming in, and it shows 223 volts, and it stays pretty solid. So that is the transformer keeping my power clean coming in. That's the other thing I needed to show you, because I will tell you all about it. Next up on the videos, boss told me we're doing transformer. So that's the one we're doing. This is the conclusion of the transformer. You already saw the video outside of the transformer up on the pole. But first I wanted to start out with a big thank you to you guys. 350 plus new subscribers since our last video. That is incredible. We are over 1,000. It's amazing. Joy was waking up first thing in the morning. We're over 1,000. We're over 1,000. Very exciting to be over 1,000 and to be over 1,000 that quick. So you are my peeps, and we stick together and we give each other information. So if you got any questions, make sure you leave them in the comment, because I'll answer them, because you're my peeps. We appreciate it. So if you want to subscribe, please do subscribe. It's free. Feel free to like the video if it's something that interests you and you like it, and share us around, and by all means grow the community. Let's get started. Transformer. The transformer in the first place. Well, it provides stable power. The biggest problem I had out here in the province, and it just started happening recently, it was in the summertime. I'm assuming everybody was running their air cons at the same time, and whenever there's a karaoke party or something, it pulls a lot of power. You could tell if there was a karaoke party on our street. You could hear the noise, but you could see it in the power. So my power, I've told you this before, it was fluctuating greatly. It was going all the way down, should be 220, 240, and it was going all the way down to 170. And I was getting errors on my air con in the middle of the night. And when you spend 30, 40,000 on an aircon, $600 to $800 American, you want to try to get as much as you can out of it. You don't want it to die right away because you got bad power. So transformer was the way to go. Now, to get it from the local electric company or a vendor. So this is kind of a tricky one. I got mine from the local electric company. Our company here is Canareco. But I could have got it cheaper from a vendor. So why did I get it from the electric company? Well, I'll tell you. I learned from watching other YouTubers. So there's a YouTuber building in the Philippines, and he had a transformer. And they had an issue with it. They had popped a fuse. There's a fuse connected to the line, so you get a lightning strike or some other big surge in the line, and it popped the fuse and protect your transformer, obviously. So they had popped a fuse and didn't realize it. They had power out for 2 days before they realized it, and they actually saw out on the line that the fuse had popped. So the local electric company was driving by checking lines because they had had this storm or whatever that popped their fuse. And they stopped them and were like, "Can you fix our fuse?" And they said, "Well, you didn't get it from us, so we're not supposed to touch it. You need to go to your vendor and buy extra fuses, and then you need to figure out how you're going to replace the fuse. We use these long poles to hook up the fuses, etc." And they climb up there and they know what they're doing. So they ended up buying a bunch of fuses from their vendor, and they have an electrician that they use to replace the fuse if it's needed. But they've also had other issues. So they had a serious drop in their power. The substation where they are at was switching substation while it was being worked. The distance was much greater, and the power drew way down even with their transformer. So they had to find an electrician to come out and switch the selector. So your transformer has a selector on it that 5 different gauges, 5 different settings. And those are all increases in power. So when they set it up originally, they set it up for your 220 to 240. But if it goes way down, you might need an adjustment. So looking at their video and wondering about this vendor and having to find an electrician, it is just so much easier using your electric company because I know I can contact them. I know where their offices are at. I know they send trucks right out. So if I have a fuse go bad, I called Canareco and they'll come out and replace the fuse. They'll charge me, of course, they'll bill me for it in my electric bill. But it's convenient and it's easy, and I know I can trust them, and I know they have the expertise and they have the people. So for me, that was the choice. I spent more, yes, but I made a conscious choice based on what I learned in YouTube. So next up, the steps. So the other part of that, the downside of using your local electric company would be the same process you're going to run into in the Philippines and a lot of government offices. They make a lot of steps, and it takes a long time to get your actual process done, whatever you're trying to do. Convert your license, buy a transformer from your local electric company. All of these are processes. So the steps that I had to go through. First one was get approved permission form from the electric company general manager, or they call them director. So first, before I can even get a transformer, I had to go to their main office, and the director, general manager, had to approve that I could purchase one. I don't know what that process entails. I know he approved it for us, but I don't know exactly why they even needed his approval. Maybe how many transformers they have on hand, how many transformers they have in your area. I'm sure there's some more information that I wasn't aware of, but you have to get that. Next, you have to provide a neighbor's power bill. And I'm not sure why I have to do that either, but it was easy for us. We know our neighbors. Most of our neighbors are all family relatives, so it was pretty easy to get a neighbor's power bill. The next step, a blueprint of your electric plan. Now, this was easier than I thought it was going to be. When we saw it on the list of things we had to do, we were like, okay, this is going to be a pain. But right outside of a Canareco office, right across the street, big sign, electric blueprints, and the Canareco office actually told us, hey, right across the street, you'll find what you need. Went over there, and they did up our electric plan for us, and the engineer that's in that office signed off on it. The next step is take that document to the municipality engineer. So we went over to our municipality in Basud and went and saw the electrical engineer in Basud, in the municipality, and gave him our prints, gave him all the documents we had up to that time so he could approve it. So it took a day or two for him to approve it. We got it approved. Then the next step was going to the fire bureau in the municipality. So the municipality in Basud has got all the agencies that work for the government and municipality of Basud. So we went to the fire department, we had to get their approval. We were installing a transformer on our line. I'm assuming mainly just they need to know where they're at, these transformers, in case there's a lightning strike or a fire on a transformer. Okay, next up, the application contract between us and Canareco had to be notarized. So we took the contract and went to an attorney's office that also did notaries and got it notarized. After that, all the documents were returned back to Canareco. So we took everything we had that they said we needed and we took it back to Canareco and turned it in. Then they let us know an electrical engineer from Canareco will be coming out to our property to do a site survey before they schedule for the transformer. So, I don't know, it was maybe a week later, we had the electrical engineer pull up and say, hey, I'm an electrical engineer with Canareco. I'm here to look at your property. So he looked around, looked at the house, looked at our print, looked at the solar even, and said, okay, yeah, you're good to get the transformer. And as long as we had them on the property and looking around, we asked them about when we get this transformer, because I put in for a transformer of bigger size to also install for Kuya's house 2 doors down, and Nana and Tate's house. Why not put them on the transformer so we're all in clean power? And I got a big enough one that if next family member builds out here, they can connect too. So that was our intent when we bought the transformer. So we asked the engineer, he said, well, it's not really the company policy. They're not supposed to, but if you're nice to the crew that comes out and you talk to them, usually they'll do it for you. So we knew we had a chance at least. The next, after his visit, we went back to Canareco and they started the scheduling of the transformer. So it took, I think, 2 weeks to get us scheduled. And then the crew shows up and it took them a day to get it installed. And we talked to the crew. So the crew was a bunch of great guys. If you're in our area and you're thinking about doing this, I think it was Team 5. It had a 5 on their truck, and they've got a big lifting crane, obviously, because the transformers are 300, 400 pounds. So Team 5, they were amazing bunch of guys. As soon as we asked about hooking up the other houses, they were like, sure. You even have extra line. We had to buy line to hook up our house, had to be 12 gauge. That's what the engineer told us. So they said, you have extra line, we'll hook up Nana and Tate's house with new line. And then Kuya Arthur was in electrical field before. He was a lineman already before, and he said he didn't need new line. But we hooked up his house to the transformer as well. So they hooked all 3 houses up, got it all done, and great bunch of guys. We gave them a tip because they were so nice and helping us out. They could have left just after the transformer, but it took them another, I don't know, a couple hours at least, 2 or 3 hours to hook up the other houses. So we gave them a tip because they were so great. And giving a tip in the Philippines, it's like Christmas Day. Everybody's smiling, laughing, and saying, you don't have to give us this much, and blah, blah, blah. It's a nice feeling. So it was great. So the big question everybody's going to want, the cost of a transformer. So going through the electric company for a 25 kVA, which is more than enough for all of our 3 houses, and we can probably add another 4 or 5 to it. Nana and Tate and Kuya Arthur, they don't use much in their house for electric. And most Filipino houses don't use a lot of electric. But the cost was 160,000 pesos through the electric company. In May of 2024, that's when we had it done. And the exchange rate then was a very nice 57 pesos to $1, which means the US dollar price was $2,807 for a 25 kVA transformer, hooked up and installed, good to go. Now, some of the added benefits, obviously I told you 25 kVA, so I've got room to expand, and installers let us know we have room to expand. So next family members build on the property here, we can provide them with clean power as well. The gauge selector that I told you about, so if we have any other power issues that gets even worse, they can come out and adjust that selector so it keeps us in the 220, 240, and it protects our electronic equipment, including the solar. So this is the big lesson learned that I want to let you guys know about. The big secret. So learn from me being an idiot, please. So we installed the solar, and I thought for sure, okay, I've got the inverter, I've got the batteries, I've got everything done. Now we're going to have great power. Well, it wasn't very long, maybe 3 or 4 days, until one night when we had fluctuating power. So the AC went kabonkers and had an error message, and the fans were blah, blah, blah. So I didn't know enough about solar when I started this. I did research, but I didn't research thoroughly enough. So there's different systems, and there's different vendors, and there's different inverters. Even in my same brand of Dea, there's different setups. I've seen other solar videos on YouTube where they could control and keep the power clean through the inverter. I don't have that option. So if I would have known, if I would have watched a video like this before I got my solar set up, I would have known to ask the question from my vendor on the solar. I would have made sure that I could clean up power if it was going to come in at 170, that I would be able to raise that up with help from the batteries or help from the solar panels, and make sure to provide clean 220, 240 to the house. But I didn't know enough. So hopefully, lesson learned for all of you, anyone that's considering solar. We've had a lot of comments already on the solar, talking about some people that are much more smart, much more educated and knowledgeable in this area than I was, or that I am still. I know enough. I know how to set up my grid tie. I know how to do my system. I know my circuit breakers, and I know all that, but there's a lot more knowledgeable people than me. So please do learn from my mistake and make sure you get the right solar for fluctuating power. So if it fluctuates, you need to be able to clean it up. That's the big secret that I wanted to make sure you get. Learn from my mistakes, and you wouldn't have to buy a $2,800 transformer. Although in the long run, I think I'm pretty good about it anyway. I like that I'm helping out Nanai and Tate's house and Kuya's house, and when the other siblings build out here, they'll be able to hook up to the transformer. Canareco, honestly, the crew that was out here, they were happy too, because any house that gets hooked up to the transformer pulls away from the grid for their whole power supply. So it helps the line going back here into our barangay to pull those houses off of it and put it on our transformer. So it's actually good for the electric company too. So I'm happy that they have clean power though. I don't want Nana and Tate's aircon to blow up on them, or Kuya. I don't think Kuya's house even has aircon, but even their electronic components, charging your phone or whatever, I want to make sure that they have clean power. So I think I'd probably still do it anyway, but at least I would have had the option if I would have been smarter about the solar. So that is another video. Hopefully I helped you out with my lessons learned, and you'll learn about making sure you ask the right questions before you make your contract with your solar company, before you get your solar. There's a lot of people that know what they're doing, but if you're like me and you were getting solar because you're getting solar and you don't know enough questions to ask, make sure you ask the one about power fluctuations, because you're going to need it in the Philippines. Maybe not the big cities, but out in the provinces, you're going to need to know that if your solar system will clean it up for you. And that's another video. So please do subscribe, like the videos if you're entertained by them. We will do our best to keep them coming. We've got a list, and you guys keep giving us new ideas, and we will keep them coming. Honey. Done.